Welcome, Annie Collins here for In Love Arts Shop. Today we'll be creating this holiday card. Let's go over the products I used to create this card. From In Love Arts, this stamp set called Waiting Girl. I'm going to use the little girl image here and the sentiment, waiting for you. I went ahead and stamped and colored her and fussy cut her ahead of time so we can work quickly through our project. As you can see, she's all colored here. And I will have all the Copic colors I use in the description box below. I also use the Sakura Jelly Roll pen in gold to highlight her dress and her pigtail holders. I have a side folding A2 card base, a red layering cardstock, some pattern paper, it's like a pale yellow tone on tone, hash or plaid mark. And I'm going to also be bringing in from Creative Expressions the die set called Christmas Window, and I'm going to use that to cut, of course, our window, our curtains, and a little snow bank that's on our windowsill, and 3 little strings of light, and I just cut them out of white cardstock. All right, let's clear our desk and get started. Like I said, I cut these out of white cardstock. You can cut these if you would like out of individual cardstock and then layer them, but I find that it's easier just to go ahead and color them with my Copic markers. I use R37, G05, Y08, and B95, which is our blue, and then C1 to color the string that holds our lights together. And I repeat this process with all 3 of those strings of lights. This is a lot easier than having to cut the paper over and over and then just adhering it. You can use your Copic markers or your Spectrum Noirs or any watercolor color pencil. I just find that this is a lot easier. All right, now that we're done with that, I'll just clear this out of the way so we can start adhering all the pieces of our card. So let's build our window. I'm going to start with our curtains, and you have 2 of these and your window frame. We're going to adhere the windows on the back side of our window frame so that they will appear like they're inside the window. Just going to use a little arc glitter glue here. Just put a little glue around the edge of our window frame here. And then I'm just going to adhere one of the panels of the curtain. And I'm going to try my best to stay within the frame, but if anything overhangs, it's okay. I can just trim it off. I just want to make sure it's straight enough that I have enough that will cover the bottom portion of the window where our little girl is going to sit. And then I'm going to adhere the other side of the window curtain. And if you don't have this die set, you just need, you can use a square die and cut a frame out of it and just hand fussy cut out some window curtain shapes. All right, so we're going to layer this onto our yellow pattern paper, but first I want to adhere our little girl here, and I colored that little portion there that's supposed to be the window sill, but I'm going to make it like it's her couch that she's leaning over waiting for whether it's Santa, a friend, a loved one to get there to celebrate the holidays. We spent a lot of time this year looking out the window, staring at our neighbors or our family members, so ever so fitting, a Christmas card waiting for you, to spend time with you is a perfect one for this year. All right, so I used some foam adhesive for behind our little girl here. I even put some on her piggy tails so that they are raised up again on our panel. I'm going to adhere this now to that tone on tone yellow not cardstock, it's pattern paper. Then I'm going to adhere the top portion, put a little arc glitter glue there, and press it into place. The bottom adhered easily because it had the foam tape from the little girl. All right, so I'm just going to make sure all the sides are adhered so they don't peel up off my card. Press that into place, and now I'm going to trim away any of the extra pattern paper that we don't need. So I just use my scissors, my fine point scissors, and do that. Now it's time to adhere our red card panel onto our card base. This is 65-pound weight layering cardstock. So I'm going to now adhere our little girl to our panel, but I want to pop the whole window up. So I'm going to use some low profile foam adhesive here. I'm just cutting some strips and adhering it to the back. I want to make sure all of the window is covered, the back side of the window, so we don't have any, gaps or unevenness. So I'm going to peel off the backing and adhere this more towards, it's centered, but towards the top of our card. And you can ink the edges of your windowsill if you want for a little more dimension. I just figured I'd leave it as is. You could do the same thing with your curtains if you would like. So now I'm going to adhere our little snowbank, which is on the outside of our window. And this is just cut from white glitter cardstock. I just used some Recollections white glitter cardstock. I'm just going to adhere it there, and that'll also cover up any seams that we have between our curtain and the little girl that may be showing. Now it's time to adhere our little string of lights. I'm going to add little dabs of glue on the back of one set of lights. And I'm going to end up trimming these down to a set of 3. I just cut away the red there. And then I'm going to attach the other 2 to it. So I'll sort of kind of give you a little swag effect. I'm just going to adhere them, overlapping just so on each end. I'm using my fine point tweezers here to help me adjust. And since they're on the outside of our window, we're going to add a little extra dimension to them in a few minutes. Okay, so now we have to add our sentiment. I'm going to put the Waiting for You, and I'm going to pull out my VersaMark ink, my stamping block, and my Ranger Detailed Gold embossing powder. I'm going to go ahead and stamp our sentiment onto some white cardstock. Excuse me. And this is 80-pound white cardstock. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some of the Detailed Gold embossing powder. And I'll shake off any of the excess, make sure all of my letters are covered. Once I have that, I'm going to close this container so I don't get embossing powder everywhere. And I will heat set this until it's completely melted. And I like to heat from on top and from the bottom. This way it minimizes the warping of my cardstock and it heats and melts evenly. Alright, so now I'm going to pull in my tiny Fiskars trimmer here and I'm going to trim away all the extra cardstock here. I'm going to get this down to a nice little rectangle. And I'll just keep trimming away till I get it how I want it. So at first, I'm thinking I'm going to do a little bit of a diagonal cut here. And I do, and then I'm like, oof, I don't like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put it to the top and cut it nice and straight. Remove the excess from the sides. A little bit more. And then I'm going to layer this onto some green cardstock. Bringing up some of that green that's in the couch color. So now we have that perfect red and green colors of Christmas. So I'm going to go ahead and layer that on there and then trim away any of the extra green cardstock. Just going to leave a nice little border all the way around. And then I'll add some foam adhesive to the back of this sentiment and apply it to the card panel. Just a little sliver more. Alright, so I'm going to get rid of that. So here we are, we're going to add a little bit of low profile adhesive to the back of this, some foam adhesive, and I'll place this just below our little girl. Try to get it as centered and as straight as possible. So now I'm going to bring in some embellishments. These are opal colored little gems, and I'm going to put 2 to the top right and 3 to the lower left, giving this nice odd cluster, almost giving us a slight snow effect without creating a whole lot of snow. So I'm going to adhere them with a little art glitter glue, if I can get it to come off my jewel picker here. And I just like adding the little dots of glue and then adhering my little gems to that. The last thing we're going to do is add a little shimmer to our lights, because they are outside and we have snow, so they should be looking frosty as well. So I'm going to use some Nuvo glitter drops in White Blizzard, and I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit of that to each of the light bulbs here. And I'm not going for the dimension, I'm just kind of smoothing it on because I'm going more for that glittery, snowy effect. And now our card is done. So here we have our little girl patiently waiting for whomever it is. I'm going to be sending this out, patiently waiting to see you again, to a close friend. Now, I did remove the center pieces of that window, as you can see from the die, but because I wanted our little girl to show through. Again, we used the Waiting for You stamp set from In Love Arts, and I'll have everything in the description box below of all the items I use. And I would like to thank you for being here, and I hope you found some inspiration today.